We're back on the Exit 52 podcast, Sunday night, September 15th, 7:48 p.m. My name is Jake Louque, and I'm joined on my screen by Spenny, by Brian, Black. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight? How we feeling? How we feeling, guys?
This is the most frustrated I think I've been by any loss in probably since like the Deshaun Jackson Jaguars loss in 2021. I think that was maybe 2022.
I think two.
The Dolphins won a couple years ago.
Dolphins Thursday night was bad. I'm more frustrated
night.
by this one.
The 35-14 Dolphins won as well.
Mike the first Mike McDaniel law. Yeah. Ravens dropped this one to the Raiders 26-23 at home in their home opener. They fall to 0-2. Yeah, this is just one that you got to have. I mean, just straight up, like John Harbaugh, this is, I don't know, like before the season, Spenny, like we did the preview episode and everything, and like I picked him to go 10-7, and like I feel like a lot of my concerns were laid bare today with the offensive line and everything and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not even gonna like dance in the end zone on this one. Like I very much expected and picked them to win this, and like John Harbaugh, this is just one you got to have, man. Like, this is unacceptable. It's embarrassing. It's completely unacceptable. It's the type of game that you cannot afford to lose, especially when you've already started 0-1. You've got a tough schedule in front of you. And me sitting here right now, I look ahead at Dallas, and I look at Buffalo coming to town. 0-4 is on the table for me right now based upon what I've seen here. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to really say other than this is one of the most embarrassing efforts of the John Harbaugh era, considering the context. I don't care about the fact that the offensive line is weak. The Raiders one looked weak too. The defense played their ass off in the first half. You just didn't do enough to help them. They were gassed and they got taken advantage of in the second half. And once again, poor decisions with the timeouts. You know, you burn one in the second half there. It winds up costing you 40 seconds at the end of the game. This is on John Harbaugh to me. This is completely unacceptable. And I really don't know what else to say.
At half, the Raiders had 43 net yards on 26 offensive plays. They had 4 yards rushing and 39 yards passing. They were 1 for 6 on third down. They didn't run for a first down. And we just saw accumulation of all of the bad juju that has happened in M&T Bank Stadium over the last couple of years. The shitty turnover on a tip pass to Robert Spillane, where it's like, oh, it's in Bateman's breadbasket. Jacorian Bennett's in there. The ball gets flicked up. Everybody goes crazy on Bateman, whatever. Of course, it just falls right into Spillane's lap. The Ravens had 5 sacks in this game. They ran the ball effectively. They threw the ball effectively. They played okay football. They had a 10-point lead. They had a lead in the fourth quarter and blew it. Again, they keep blowing fourth quarter leads to stupid teams in M&T Bank Stadium over and 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 over again. They can't stop. And the sequence at the end of the game, for all of the bullshit that happened, we'll get into the penalties, we'll get into everything. The sequence at the end of the game that went fourth quarter, Derrick Henry runs the ball for 5 yards. Divine Diablo injured on the play. 2nd and 5, Baltimore 25. Lamar Jackson to the right end for no gain. Penalty on third down. Neutral zone infraction. Ronnie Stanley. Great job by Ronnie Stanley to end that play early with the neutral zone, realizing where the defender was. 3rd and 1. Mark Andrews lines up in a quarterback sneak. They're going to push him and get a fucking false start. Then
it was Kolar.
But it was Derrick Henry. It was not Kolar. It was Derrick Henry.
No, Kolar was center.
Kolar was on the QB sneak.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Whatever. Big white tight end, 88-89.
Yeah.
4-yard penalty enforced, or excuse me, 4-yard. I don't know why it says 4-yard, not 5-yard enforced. And then hot throw, can't get it, gets tipped. The tipped passes. What has there been 6 tip passes there? That sequence was killer. Then the Raiders' ensuing drive, first down, deep ball. Okay. They drive. Then 1-yard gain, Bowers 15 yards, chunking down the field. They're on the Baltimore 25. They get to 3rd and 5. Brock Bowers over the middle, which became a common theme. 2nd and 9 on their own 9. They get a sack. Kyle Van Noy, who came out with a very icy entrance with the fractured orbital bone, just walked out like this into the stadium. Very cool. Played his ass off. with the fractured orbital bone, gets the sack. It is 3rd and 17, pass interference on the 1. We'll talk about that. 1-yard touchdown. Then to come back, 1st and 10. It is a tie football game at this point. There are 3 minutes and 54 seconds left, and they have blown so many football games in the fourth quarter at home to teams they should not have lost to. So they signed Derrick Henry. They don't run him. Instead, they drop straight back, no play action on the first snap of the series, and we see the Raiders licking their chops because Daniel Faalele is in the game in a true drop back. And they take Max Crosby, a $140 million pass rusher, one of the best players in the NFL, one of the most notable, well-known players in the NFL, who has already torched the Ravens, which I want to get to the point of, hey, this has kind of come full circle. You still haven't fucking fixed your offensive line. 3 years ago, you played the Raiders, and your offensive line was dog shit. And it's 3 years later, and the Raiders can say, oh, let's get Crosby to go stun inside on Faalele, on that big, slow fucker. And he doesn't even see. He doesn't even know that Max Crosby, the number 1 player on the football field, on the defense of where is he? Let's account for him. Hey, there he is. Hey,
Crosby was behind him before he had even turned left. It was one of the most disgusting sacks I have ever seen allowed.
So you have now seen that. So then getting into that, Brian, I know you're furious about the, I think, draw on 2nd and 19, and then Lamar chooses to dump it off.
White flag. Those next plays. White fucking flag. Terrible.
Absolutely terrible. And then they punt the ball 24 yards, which was a net 19 yards with a 5-yard penalty. The Raiders start on the 43 there. I don't know what you want this defense to do, but like I said, you played the Raiders 3 years ago, almost to the day, and you had Villanueva on one side and a beat-up Ronnie Stanley, and Max Crosby gave you the fucking business. 3 years later, you haven't fixed it, and Max Crosby, with the game on the line, had a not even a weak, like a weak spot, like a there's my bitch. There. Oh, who's my bitch? There's my bitch. I can go win the game because that dude is on the field. I see it. The fan base sees it. Everyone sees it. Chris Jones saw it. The Chiefs saw it. The Raiders saw it. But the Baltimore Ravens coaching staff doesn't see it. I am walking. This is going to sound like I'm making this story up. I am walking back from the game to my house with my mom. And my mom says, what happened? Why did they lose? And I started explaining, well, they moved this guy from one position to another. And he's kind of, a guy that's a project. And blah, 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 blah. 10 feet from me, I hear someone, I think he said his name was Brad or Brandon, something with a B. I hear someone going, Faalele didn't even see Crosby stunting. And I turned to him and I was like, I know, that was insane. And he goes, Spenny? Oh my God, I love the podcast. The people of the city of Baltimore, us dumb fucks, know that is why you are losing games. You have the wrong person. You have other options. In the run game, he is so slow. He is so slow. They are front pulling him. They are running to the boundary and having him pull out front. And he is so fucking slow getting out of his stance as a guard inside that other blockers are making a Congo line, waiting for him to get his big fucking ass upfield. It is hindering the run game. It is dead. It is like gangrene in the passing game in your pass pro while you're rotating tackles next to him. Rotating tackles with Kevin Zeitler, who's a 10-time or a 10-year Pro Bowl caliber player, is one thing. Rotating tackles while you have a fucking neophyte that is out of position is insane to keep going. And I don't know, we can like make Joe D into this martyr. They're doing the same shit. They're doing the same shit. This has been the line all summer. All summer, you had the evidence, the evaluation, everything, preseason to say, this guy doesn't really look like a guard. He looks like a really big, tall tackle for Greg Roman's offense playing guard. And they just won't. They just won't switch out of it. It's like Bryant McKinney, round fucking 2, and stupider. I don't know what else to say. You have lost 2 games, not in part because of Daniel Faalele playing guard. How many more times are you going to do this? How are you still doing this? How are you wasting fucking timeouts each half in both halves? Why do you never have your challenges and timeouts at the end of the half? What are they doing? What the fuck are you doing? This was the stupidest loss I have ever seen. It's Gardner Minshew again. Like the script writer thing, whatever. It's the same fucking script. They're pissing down their legs. They're pissing their pants. Their diapers are full with a lead, playing their asses off on defense. The refs certainly don't help. We'll talk about it, but I'm at a loss for words. And that's here. We got one in the comments. How does Cleveland not even?
I don't know if you are at a loss for words. I think you have all the words.
I think I have nothing to say. I have nothing other to say than what I said in my opener. That this is just disgusting and stupid, makes no sense, and here we are. I think you're articulating all of my thoughts.
Yeah,
keep
it going. Keep it going.
We're live for 11.5 minutes now. I think Jake spoke for maybe 90 seconds to start, so he's got.
This is good for me. I'm just
good. Yeah, keep it going.
Minutes.
I feel no need to interject. I just want to say you had great words to say. You shouldn't cut yourself short.
It seems fake. It seems like it's so obvious what's happening. That fans know and analysts know and Mike Florio knows and Skip Bayless knows and Colin Cowherd knows and me and the guy walking down the street know, but the Ravens just won't accept reality. It seems almost like too stupid to be real. And I rarely get to this point because generally I think there's a lot of things that go on that we don't understand fully, or there's context that we don't know, and they keep things pretty tight. This one is too stupid. This is too stupid to lose.
Sometimes when you're sitting up in the stands, you have, and like this is kind of a metaphor, it's like you can see things a lot clearer from way up or way out. And we're way out. We're not on the inside, but we can see things very clearly from the outside. Some of the things that are apparently not clear to them, like the challenges. I'm just going to throw the fucking red flag for no reason twice. The first time I defended him because it was in the first half. It was effectively a timeout, right? And people were coming after me a little bit for that, but I think most people understood that. Second time, who is telling him to challenge that? That was so fucking clear on the broadcast. Then they showed the replay. Clear again. The guys on the telecast.
That's also like look who made the play. This isn't some Joe Schmo. Like this is the best guy I can think of when it comes to a play like that. Do you think he would not get his feet in?
Who was already killing you and would go on to kill you. And it's just like, it just makes no sense. Like, put the fucking flag away. Somebody, there needs to be a coach that when he goes to throw that flag and you saw it come up as they were about to snap the ball, he was thinking about it. They're literally about to snap it. You see a little flash of red come up in the screen. There needs to be a coach that when he's about to do it, they just arm bar him and they say, no, you're not throwing it. There needs to be a holdback guy.
The one thing I'll say about the one in the second half, and it did turn out well, is that it effectively was a timeout after a huge play, and the Ravens did get a stop there.
Sure.
It effectively was a timeout. But to Brian's point, like if you thought that Devonta Adams didn't get his foot down, you haven't been watching football for the last decade. He does it every time.
And it's a second half timeout. They're way more crucial than that. Cost them, like I said, 40 seconds at the end of the game. You could have gone and gotten Tucker into maybe field goal range. Who knows with Justin Tucker anymore? The guy can't make from 50, and that's what costs you this one because it was a 3-point swing. Crazy.
We're going to back up a little bit here and go back to the top here. Like, just my take, generally speaking, is this is one of those freakish games, but like we've had too many freakish games for it to be freakish in the John Harbaugh era. I've watched this game, to your point, you said the similar thing, Jake. I've seen this game so many fucking times. I don't even remember if you said that on the broadcast or you said it before we started. But whatever. We've watched this exact game so many times. And when I do the post-game blogs for these things on Barstool, like, I want to pinpoint all these handful of things or handful of moments, and it's just this big like accumulation of God, it's so fucking frustrating. It's the Colts game from last year where it's like if they just did this one thing of this dozen things, the outcome's different. But we didn't do any of the dozen things. So we can point fingers at the flag with the pass interference, but like just simplest shit. Like I think
it's all of it. If you do one thing right, if you like I was saying with the Chiefs, sorry to cut you off, but if you do one thing right in turn, that eliminates that. You do 6 things wrong and then you do 6 things right, and they kind of cancel each other out a little bit. You gotta have there needs to be a balance, like a discrepancy between good and bad decisions, or just doing the little things right and wrong.
And every time it's one of these games, I try to think of like, what was that good thing we did that kind of counterbalance it to make it closer at least, or like kept us in the game to get us to the point where it did come down to a play or two. And I can't think of hardly any plays in this game that were like, oh, that was a hero play, or like that was a really smart decision, or I don't know. I struggle to think of any in this game, and it's just like to your point, the Derrick Henry false start is just one of those things where it wasn't his only false start of the game. He seems like he's a little out of rhythm, and that maybe that comes with being in the new offense, but they're just not humming along the way they should. Why
isn't he the one just running the fucking football?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. And then the other piece too is like, it seems as though every time one of these games comes along, there is the moment at which you can just almost like, all right, this game has gotten away from us a little bit. It's fucked up, but we can hit a reset button and we can make it all right. We're going to get the football here, 4 minutes left, and we can go right down the field, control the game, go win the game. We can right the wrongs. We're always at a crossroads in all of these games where it's so fucking frustrating at that point in time, but it's like we can just take a deep breath and make it right. And that's what good football teams do. And it seems like every time we get to that crossroads in this exact game, we do not make it right. And that is frustrating as shit. And I don't know if that's a Lamar thing. I don't know if it's a Harbaugh thing. It's like,
you can
that
even
drive
hear,
is so predictable. The sack right in the face, which is maybe the most frustrating play of the entire game, because it just encapsulated the ineptitude on the offensive side of the ball for the entire day so perfectly and killed the drive in a heartbeat. And then the way we waved the flag, exactly like you said. So, I mean, we came out of the gates playing like we like scared, like complete, like run the ball for two down. Like, how many second and longs did we run the ball again? We played conservatively, like this team was going to lay down for us, and they did for 2.5, almost 3 quarters. But like, why aren't we up 2 touchdowns at halftime? I'm looking at the entire first 35, 40 minutes of the game. I'm looking up at the top corner of the stadium and looking at those team stats as they roll through. And I'm just like, why is this a game right now? Why am I, even when it was 16-6, it's like, all right, like, let's go finish this thing off. And then the freakish pick, like, it's not freakish, but like, it just, we can never step on throats anymore. They
step on rakes. They don't step on throats.
I was going to say, at the top of the drive with whatever it was, like 3:52 to go, a couple of you guys were there, but you could even hear on TV, like the crowd rising in volume, being like, hey, like, go win the game on this drive. And then just totally deflating when Lamar was sacked. Like, it was just such a clear moment, like you said, Brian, of like, all right, like, this is the time to like finish it off and not do this thing that we've seen 5,000 times. Like, the crowd knew exactly what was at stake on first down, and sort of like rose in volume more than you would normally hear before an offensive drive. It's shocking that they ran that play on first down with 3:52 to go. Like, absolutely shocking. As you said, Spenny, that is why you bring Derrick Henry.
The entire point of the Derrick Henry signing was to end this spell of being able
to end the game. Yes, it's to
being able to say, oh, we're going to run it, and we have Lamar Jackson, and we have Henry, and we have every run concept that you can possibly want to run. We have a fullback. We have 3 tight ends. We have a couple receivers that are scrappy and can block. We can run laterally. We can run downhill. We can run man. We can run zone. We can run anything. That is demoralizing. And I'm going to say this, like, the Chiefs obviously are very much in our heads. Their game just ended and they just beat the Ravens. The Chiefs would have ran Derrick Henry there. Like, if they had Derrick Henry, they would have fucking ran him there. They would have done the low-hanging fruit and the calm thing. They would have done the calm thing.
Little things.
I mean, it's the same with the Kolar. It's the same with the Kolar play. Just put the ball in Derrick Henry's hands on that play.
I don't know if I fully agree with the idea of let's just force feed Derrick Henry there.
I agree with
the idea. He had a good statistical day, generally speaking.
Waste 40,
but he broke 2 good runs.
Slow the game down.
Slow the game down, and you don't go 9 yards behind the sticks, and then you have to give up because you can't drop Lamar back because he's going to get.
But that's the conundrum at hand, is that we're broken in pass pro. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
The idea, I think, is like, it's cloak and dagger. It's subversion, right? We're going to put him back there, but then we're going to do something else, right? That's why, like, I sometimes get a little annoyed when people are like, "Oh, why don't they do this more? This was working. Why don't you just do that?" And it's like, well, you want to play poker a little bit. You want to subvert expectations.
But
when this
sometimes
guy's
it
in,
does. It's like LSU did it against South Carolina, where they just kept giving it to Durham, the freshman running back, over and over and over. Sometimes you just got to give it to the guy.
and that was my
Derrick
point.
Henry has done it to the Ravens.
Correct.
Watched him do it to the
And
Ravens
he was
multiple
getting
times.
going. Just
And that
I
was-
know that is not like the smart take, but sometimes you just got to give it to the guy and let it go. And if it doesn't work, I'm fine going down that way as opposed to what Spenny so intricately described with Mr. Filele. I'm fine going down with the 2 Derrick Henry runs into the line and seeing what happens.
And that's what I was getting around to.
Watching this happen for the last 3 years, I'd much rather go down that way than how we watched them go down with the Justice Hill draw and all that stuff. Like that to fail in that moment was very damning based on how we watched them fail in that moment over and over and over for 2+ years.
It's like at home is another big, and like the thing that I was coming around to is like they're trying to play poker. They're not poker players. John Harbaugh does not have a poker face. You look at him, there were 5 different Harbaugh faces I could have.
I was minute 21. I would have taken the under for you bringing this up.
Content bonanza today, but I was kind of, I don't know. I just kind of, when things started to go south, I got off X. I'm anyone Xing at me or doing whatever, sending me X videos. I'm not going to be looking at it this week.
I just keep peeling back the onion too as I'm clicking through play-by-plays and stuff. Like the punt by Stout, so uncharacteristic, hurt us so badly. Just put the complete control in their hands, and that's the most frustrating point. Is that like they did not really construct anything in terms of a lengthy drive other than 7 plays, 64 yards. They thrived on okay, they had a 9 and 70, but like they thrived on field position to stay in the game for most of the game. It's just
keep yourself together.
And then Davante Adams as well. Like you got to a juncture in the game or up 2 scores. What do you think they're going to do? They have no option but to go to 17.
And
he was in single coverage most of the half, and they did a great job, in my opinion, of not giving him space to operate. But he wins those balls, and that's who he is. So why don't we have more guys on top of him?
Bowers was killing them too.
I was going to say they had 89 too.
You additionally know that Adams, if I'm the Raiders and I'm down and it's week 2 and I'm Antonio Pierce and I'm also Gardner Minshew, we just watched Josh McDaniels. Like let's just pull. You're talking about peeling back the onion. Let's think about the Raiders as a team from a blimp. We just watched them fire their coach because Davante Adams was flipping out about not getting the ball. Even more so to your point, Brian, they are going to throw to him or he's going to flip out. Like she made all these changes. They were considering trading him, even not just because of the talent, because of the persona of the Raiders right now. He's even more so going to get fed. That's why they threw the ball on the 1-yard line to him so he could score the touchdown. I mean, and that was a little bit of a heat check in a way too, but of course, they're feeding him. Of course, Jake, we do the breakdown before the game. I pull up plays and I said, don't let Davante Adams run a fucking dig in a big moment in the game. In a big moment in the game, Davante Adams is going to run a dig. So your linebackers need to be buzzing underneath of him with their eyes up, finding the ball, take him away. And if Bowers beats you, that's fine. If Jacoby Myers beats you, that's fine. And it was nuts. And I mean, we can get into the refs. We don't have to. We can, whatever. Unbelievable, just whatever. The Ronnie Stanley hold when Derrick Henry gets like his first actual breakthrough run of the day. Unbelievable. Harbaugh's comments after the game. Harbaugh after the game said, he said, I guess I'll watch the film and see if I could see what the ref saw. But based on what I've already seen, I have nothing that I can tell Ronnie Stanley to coach him up about that play. There is nothing I can say to Ronnie Stanley there.
Chris Board on the special teams play. You had obviously the big one was the one in the end zone where Adams and I think Stevens are hand checking each other. And then the phantom face mask, I think people will call out. Ojabo did hit Minshew late there. So that kind of, I think, came out in the wash. But overall, like the Ravens, like you can't keep putting yourself in that position. You can't have, I think, what do they have? Like 10 for over 100 penalties? 11 for over 100 yards. And that is 2 drives right there, essentially. Like you just gave them those yards. Like it's insane. You can't.
They only had 243 yards of offense, and you had 40% of their production you gave them in penalties.
Yeah, they didn't run the ball at all until the very end. I mean, they could not run the ball.
Not even at the end. They ran
really
run at the
end.
Yeah. It was just total failure. And there's all these comments here in the chat. I see them. I always read them. Eric DaCosta has failed, all that. I am telling you, I've watched Ben Cleveland play guard. I've watched him. I've seen it. He has 150 NFL pass blocking snaps. That's about 5 games worth of pass blocking snaps. That's not the smallest sample size on earth. And he has never looked like that. He has never been that bad. They also have Josh Jones, who is an experienced veteran who's played tackle and guard. He doesn't look like that. I don't get what's going on. I don't understand. I think they have the answers. I'm not blaming Eric DaCosta. If I'm blaming Eric DaCosta for something, it's if he doesn't walk downstairs or walk next door since they're neighbors and be like, hey, we're done here with we're done with Falele now. Hey, it's done. It's done. It's over.
That should be well within his capacity of responsibilities. He is the general manager. You can at least get in Harbaugh's ear and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. I think you need to do this.
I don't think you say, I think you need to. I say, it's over now. He's in charge of the personnel ultimately. He's in charge of Harbaugh ultimately. Sure, they're buddies. Sure, all this, but it's got to be.
Play Hatterberger first, not Pena.
Exactly, Taylor. Exactly. Or fucking trade Falele to the Chargers.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Let's just get rid of Cleveland. You're gonna have this like blood feud against Ben Cleveland. Just get rid of him. What are you doing hanging on to him if you're just not gonna play? Like, just make a clean break if you're not gonna play the fucking guy because of whatever's going on off the field. Apparently, what you're saying, Spenny, is not affecting his play on the field. He can at least be competent. I just don't understand it. I don't know, man. And we're never gonna get the answer too. That's the frustrating part. We're never gonna know.
Hopefully,
even if it's not Cleveland, as you said, it's not like they could shift things in other directions. You have to try something different. Even if
McCary has played guard before, he
Correct.
sucks at guard. He's much better at tackle, and everyone's ripping McCary apart. That sack was not like some terrible rep, whatever. But every other possible answer you can have at right guard, Nick Semak, the fucking 7th round center from Michigan State who's been hurt, I probably think he would give you a more serviceable level of guard. I genuinely, in my heart, believe that the 7th round rookie center would be a better guard than Daniel Falele.
Inactive today.
Yeah. Again, he's the 5th option, but Falele is the 1st. I just genuinely don't get it. I don't know. It feels insane. It feels absolutely insane. And realizing, again, like I said, that Max Crosby had 2 sacks and was tormenting the Ravens with Alejandro Villanueva in 2021, 3 years ago. We had the comment from someone named Jeremy in here. Also, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Support the boys. This is the most negative we've ever been, and we know you guys fucking love negativity. How many extra days did they have to prepare for the Raiders? It is your home opener, rested, and you're still fucking around this way.
There's a little Stephen A. Smith in there.
You're still fucking around this way.
Yeah, good. That was a Stephen A. cadence a little bit.
I'm going to go with my reality mode. Boop, boop, boop. You get 3 points for that.
I'm
going to start doling out points for good takes.
Defensively, I am going to talk about the defense. Odafe Oweh, spectacular. I'll have 14 of those. Spectacular. He was so good. Kyle Van Noy was so good. Marlon Humphrey's interception, fantastic. I think that they did a nice job. They got off the field several times. They bailed the Ravens out, the offense out last week because when Falele let up the strip sack against Chris Jones, they held the Chiefs to a field goal. They got off the field a bunch of times. So that drive, the penalties, all of those things, I am not worried about the Ravens defense in any way, shape, or form. Do they have some plays that they want back? Whatever. Yes, sure. But everything that is wrong with this team is on the offensive side of the football. Everything is with the offensive side of the football. I can go in a million directions. Lack of creativity a little bit, like working. Let's work Andrews and Likely off of each other so that we can run someone else underneath of them. Like everything just looks so difficult. One thing I do want to say as well, randomly that popped in my brain, I feel like no one's going to remember that Lamar Jackson threw like a 38-yard dime to the 30-yard line at the very end of the game, one play before the final play that hit Isaiah Likely in both of his hands, and he took one step and then the ball got pushed out. That was an unbelievable throw.
Two Ravens standing right next to each other.
Great play by the Raiders DB. How about on TV? Tiki Barber goes, "That's a sneaky good play." I said, "Tiki, that's actually not a sneaky.
That is overtly a good play.
That's actually a gigantic play.
Game, probably. Well, no, it didn't save them the game because that would have been at the 30, which would have been a 52-yard field goal, and Justin Tucker would have shanked it.
By the way, awesome stuff for the TV viewers, for them to do the Tucker's one for his last 7 from plus 50 plus, and then showed him hitting a 70-yarder off a tee in the pregame. That was
right. And they're just like, they're literally like saying like, that is off a tee. That is not going to be what this is going to look like. And he's like, well, I don't know, Jim.
Tiki was like scoffing at them showing it. I was like, honestly, fair scoff.
Yeah,
like,
I was with him on that.
Right now?
Yeah, sure.
Why are we showing it?
How do we feel about late in the first half there, taking the 8-yard out to Zay and just taking the 3 points as opposed to taking one shot at the actual end zone?
The way the offense was playing, a sack was very much in play, so I didn't.
And then they got the ball after half and came down and scored a touchdown and had as much of a lead as you could want.
Well, when you get the ball, when you have the ball coming out of the half, I think that's an acceptable play.
I would agree.
I don't disagree, but like it's just the notion.
Brian,
of it.
I think that was more frustrating to watch after how the offense had played for the half, which was so conservative, and then you put that on top of it. That's more frustrating.
I'm just stewing on all.
We have a great point there. Hey, maybe the extra timeout would have been nice there. I hate not having challenges and timeouts. That is like, I think if you're a football coach in the NFL, there's like one rule you can abide by: save your challenges and timeouts till the end of the fourth quarter. Like, I think that's the most basic rule.
You know what fucking infuriated me today? How many excess timeouts did Antonio Pierce had to just call for no fucking reason?
He did keep doing that, but it settles things down. That's what head coaches, that's their job too. Settle things down. That's why I wasn't that mad about the one after the Devontae Adams catch, but the Zay Flowers one. Yeah, Brian, if they had 7 seconds and a fucking timeout, I would have, or maybe that would have made it 15 seconds.
I mean, we had 25% of the field. We had to play outside the numbers there and hope to get out of bounds pretty much.
Yeah. So
it just completely handcuffs you.
It feels disorganized, and that starts with the football coach. I think that is the primary function. Like, we do Orioles stuff. We talk about Brandon Hyde. The primary function in my mind is to keep things calm and confident. And you look at fucking Dan Campbell, a guy like that who is aggressively like calm and excited. It's just not there. The body language, John Harbaugh at this point, man, it's not there. And then you guys know I hate post-game presser stuff and whatever he says to the media, who cares? But just the tone of voice, he's just dejected and defeated. Like,
this is exactly why we wanted them to move on and hire McDonald. And when they didn't have the opportunity to do that, okay, you stick with Harbaugh. But I am starting to wonder, like, is this, legendary run, is it finally reaching the end of its course? Maybe.
Which is something it feels like. I feel like we've had that conversation even prior to you guys being on, like me and Banks and RD2. I think we've had that conversation after at least one game for like 5 straight years, which is kind of amazing to have that. And the coach just never gets let go. To me, the most concerning part, I hate this like hot takeism in general of like, oh, like everyone just got tight, but they got tight. I mean, they got like the Jordan Stout punt and watching him walk off the field and like clearly like that's a guy that was tight based on all of his teammates accumulating to that point of making similar plays like that. And that goes back to the head of the snake, which is Harbaugh. Like, you have to exude some calm. And it was clear that players were frustrated. Even watching Tucker, I slam his water bottle down. I know the guy's frustrated, but like that is a guy that has always exuded calm. Like, even when it doesn't go right, he comes off the field. It's all sort of whatever. That was a little concerning. Lamar heads straight down after the 3 and out with 4 minutes to go, way down on the side. And like that stuff is very easy to analyze in spots. We're getting like 3 seconds look at it on TV, and then they're moving away. But we didn't see like a lot of,
I think in any sport,
leadership going on throughout. So I mean, like, look, that's one of those things as we talk about, like, we're not there and don't know the intricacies of what's going on. So I almost like hate giving those opinions, but like you see it over and over and over enough. And you're like, in some of these bigger moments, there's just those things start to show up a little bit from the Ravens sideline. So I don't know. I can't believe we're having a John Harbaugh should have moved on from him in week 2. It's like,
yeah, it's crazy.
You hope this would get to like week 12 and we would start to have this conversation.
I mean, we lose a game like we did against the Colts last year, very similar, and still found a way to be the 1 seed. So
yeah,
like,
I mean,
all right, let's try to like,
and that's
here, but like these next 2 weeks are just so fucking critical to just almost from like an evaluative standpoint of like, do we have the nuts?
And I was so down.
We have the brain Do we have the fucking brain to just make a change and stop being prideful?
I mean,
because a lot of the frustrations that the fan base has surrounding Harbaugh is that he's hard-headed, right?
And I was so down after that Colt game too, because it was like they just lose 3 games like this every single year on top of the games that they probably are supposed to lose. And that's why they're always at 11-6 and maybe they get to 12 wins if they're lucky. Obviously it broke differently last year, but they had a great team last year. They had a much better, I don't know if it's much better, but they definitely had a better roster last year than this one, particularly on the offensive line, which is going to be a problem position for them going forward here. And now you lose a game in Kansas City, which, you know, I'm fine with that. I think we were all fine with that. But the understanding is that you come in and you take care of business in games like this because, God damn it, like it's not going to get easier from here. Like we talked about with the schedule, like it's going to be hard to dig yourself out of this one.
Boop, boop, boop. Which is funny because they will give you yourself your own points. Yeah. They've also, you know, obviously pulled games out of their asses over the last few years as well. At times,
with Lamar Jackson, they're gonna have a winning record. This is the first back-to-back. He hasn't lost. What was it? He hasn't lost.
This is our first time any of us podcasting that they have started 0-2.
This is the first time that Lamar Jackson has ever lost 3 consecutive games.
Yeah.
Dating back to the AFC Championship. And 2 of them were against Patrick Mahomes.
Is it even worth talking about his day in any intricate detail? It for some reason, for as central he is to everything, we haven't really mentioned him 36 minutes in.
The topic
I'm thrilled by that, by the way. I'm thrilled.
Me too. It's nice to talk about something other than Lamar. It really is.
Nice. The topic area that could be nitpicked is how much he ran the football or how involved he was in the run game or how often he took off on his own. He dusted the one guy. Well, it was 2 guys really on the one play, but I think there were some conversations about, you know, him missing practice early in the week last week. Was he beat up after carrying it 16 times? I think it's all neither here nor there. Like, it's just kind of, that's the way the game was designed. And that's what we did. We took what we had, whatever. But fuck, there's certain points there. I think as we were lining up for 3rd and 6 before we're getting that offsides, I'm there just saying to myself, like, it's time for Lamar to do just like the one big thing to go win this game. And in that moment, he didn't. But that all got fucked up because we went forwards then backwards and whatever. But damn, it's just felt like we left him in the garage a little bit here.
And that was the whole thing coming out of the Chiefs game is like, we don't want him doing that every single week. He looked great. Obviously he ran around a ton, but he also got hit a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't want him getting that wear and tear accumulated. So that probably was part of the approach here. And it was probably a part of the approach from him because he probably could have pulled the ball down and run a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
sorry to cut you off and jump back in here, but like there have to be games in which we can assert ourselves early so we can not have to do that. And this should be one of those games on the schedule. And we didn't. We played scared for the first 3 series.
Brian, I think you raise a great point about the beginning of the game. And I think that the soreness and the missing practice was felt in the play calling early. And they just kind of wanted to run Henry, establish the run, maybe let Lamar loosen up a little bit, jog on and off the field, make a couple of throws, things like that. They stepped on the Chiefs' necks last week, game opening drive of the season. They go down and score a touchdown. So we've seen both versions sputter. And he's made throws late. Again, I mentioned the Isaiah Likely throw at the end of the game. We can talk about the interception. Sure, I haven't gotten a great chance to look at that one. I thought he was playing in pretty good rhythm at times in the second quarter. I think that 2-minute drills have looked really strong across 8 quarters of football so far. The half, they moved down there. They didn't get a touchdown, but they moved the football and it was smooth and it was quick. Feels like for the 15th year, we were doing the podcast 5-6 years, Jake. It's like when they run tempo, they can get into a rhythm and Lamar can get into a rhythm and they can spray the football around. And then the big plays,
if you get a favorable personnel package too, that you can take advantage of looks like that, that's absolutely the way to go because they can't substitute. And they didn't seem to have any urgency in that regard today.
Yeah.
And to talk about the interception, Lamar fitted it on Bateman's hands. And there was some freak out about Bateman making the play. I mean, Ja'Cory Bennett made a pretty good play to.
That was an Odell Beckham play from last year. And I think he probably had a little more confidence that Bateman would fight on that one. I do think it was kind of bang, bang. Bennett got a hand in there, but I feel like that's a play I saw Odell Beckham make last year. Right. And I'm not saying that you had to re-sign him or anything. He's not even playing football for the Dolphins right now. So it is what it is. But it's another one where you had a guy walk out and you didn't do anything. You drafted Devontae Walker. Same thing with the offensive line. Hey, we're going to rebuild the offensive line. You let 3 guys walk. You didn't do anything. You drafted a guy in the second round who looked solid today, but he also got victimized a couple times. He's still learning. It's going to take time with him.
Divisive player, Rashad Bateman at this point. Very divisive.
I don't know. Corey Bennett made a play and fucking Spillane happened to be there. It's only because it was a tip pass interception that anyone cares about Bateman. The result is the only reason anyone cares about what happened with Bateman.
Correct. You've seen that play hit the ground a million times when it gets broken up. So
the result drives the polarization of the topic. So I don't really give a fuck about that throw. I don't give a fuck about that play. It happens. With that in mind, or where do we have Taylor Hodges? Interesting comment here. Tomlin was right. The Ravens don't play 4 quarters. He also had the comment. What was that last year? That in a big moment, they'll burn the house down.
Yeah.
Like we saw it again. Still, it's still their MO against the Chiefs. They were about to go for 2. If Isaiah Likely's foot was in, I think that is the definition of that, as well as not running Derrick Henry in that situation, or not even just running Derrick Henry. Brian, I absolutely understand late in the game, not wanting to run the ball. Sure. Maybe that's just subjective completely to beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But let's maybe move the pocket if we want to throw it, right? Let's run a little play action. Let's throw a little quick screen. Let's use
literally anything but the play that they ran.
Yeah. Anything but a straight drop back. Anything but a straight drop back there. And then maybe let's focus on Max Crosby. We've talked about all of those things, but yeah, I would defend Rashad Bateman. I thought he fucking had 2 really nice plays today as well, and makes a crazy diving catch for the sideline. For the second straight week, he's laying out for the football. He's engaged. He bounced back from that little interception to make that great diving catch. I don't know. Again, we talked about it a little bit in the preview in the jumbo set, Jake. It just feels like the identity of the Ravens offense is just to be random and unpredictable. And that feels like it's confusing themselves. By doing
that's not what that lends itself to is Lamar Jackson saying, I have to put the Superman cape on. And that's what you get last week against the Chiefs. And this week, there was discombobulation. There was discord. There was just no, it just didn't seem to be working synchronously. They have the 2 touchdown drives that look good. But outside of that, it didn't look like there was a plan. And all the Bateman stuff, I'm just like, dude, this offense doesn't seem to run through the wide receivers much at all. You're seeing a little bit of Flowers. He had a nice touchdown today, but it's a lot of the tight ends. It's trying to get Henry going. It's Jackson
11 targets sneakily for Mr. Flowers today.
Okay. He had a decent I'm not saying that they're not doing anything, but it's Flowers, and outside of that, you had an Aguilar catch, but the wide receivers are just not even, they're persona non grata to me right now. I don't even think about them that much, which is kind of crazy in 2024 that we're still talking about this.
The third to last possession that the Ravens had the football. The last possession obviously ended in the lateral play. The second to last possession was the sack that ends up being the short punt, the doggy poop punt. Possession before that, the Ravens get the ball at 9:15. What I do think is interesting, 3rd and 5, Baltimore 25. They target Zay Flowers on a slant, and he looked like he had 2 steps on the corner. I think it was man coverage with a pressure. Might have been a house call. Robert Spillane tips a pass. That is the 6th, if I'm not mistaken, tipped pass at the line of scrimmage through 2 games.
Lamar also missed Andrews too. The Andrews wide open play. I mean, that's one.
That was really bad.
We'll go take a look at that one for sure. He definitely floated that one over top of him. Made Andrews have to lay out for one. That could have been him steering him away from some contact.
The one that he floated was a Flacco to Pitta, just off the back foot, heave one up, and it just totally sailed on him. Just bad.
So yeah, and the being too, someone had a comment here, being too multiple. It's tough. This is what I think the Raiders have done a good job of, and we talked about this a little bit, Jake, is that they keep it simple, right? They kind of just stay within tight formations. They kind of have the tight ends go in motion. They'll have Devontae Adams run a little motion just to get an indicator and maybe get him a free release. When your offensive line is inexperienced and you've got a couple new parts, trying to immediately be painting a Rembrandt is not conducive to success. And some of that could be a result of not playing in the preseason, having the quarterback not play in the preseason, having Andrews unavailable for a while, a lot of those things. So they're asking too much of their guys too early, and it's leading to a lack of confidence in your assignment and a lack of confidence in rhythm. So you mentioned, Jake, hey, get a good personnel in there, get a mismatch and roll. That's what I want to see them do moving forward. Just dumb it down just a little bit. And we got Electrician here. Do you think Falele turns his helmet in and quits? I want to say this too.
Is he asking if Daniel Falele did the right thing, the Ravens would have won today?
if he would have retired at halftime.
Yeah.
I do want to say this too. I'm not mad at Daniel Falele. I just don't think he's ready to play guard. I think he could be in 2 months.
I mean,
we're having the
that's
same
thing.
conversation.
It's not like a Villanueva situation where it's a guy that previously played at a high level and is just done. Like this is where it goes back to coaching. You might have even tweeted this, Spenny. Like, he just is getting put in a position to not succeed. Like,
play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's the same thing with the Orioles. I am not mad at Austin Slater right now. He should not be in this position.
Who was that draft evaluator that coming into the season was victory lapping the idea that he foresaw him being a guard? Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
That guy, I wonder where that guy's at right now.
I knew he was going to play guard. Okay, you won. You won. He's played snaps at guard. He's a dog shit guard. Congratulations. Congratulations. You nailed that one. Please send him to the Chargers. Just send him back where he belongs.
Your 2-0 Los Angeles Chargers. Greg Roman, J.K. Dobbins looking pretty good.
Steelers 2-0 in the division.
You said it's been like keep it more simple. They have Derrick Henry, which gives you the ability to play really simple. It gives you the ability to just hand it off to a running back.
And we saw them start to work the outside. They were running the outside zone. Henry has the big run. They start to get these chunk plays, and then it's like, I can't let everybody know my next move. You're never going to know my next move. Like, we're going to be so unpredictable because people said they were predictable. It just feels like, I don't know, media comments and things have gotten to them too much, and they still aren't playing football just simply to win. They're playing to win the narrative at times. Like, oh, we're not predictable anymore. Oh, we're not. Oh, we have Derrick Henry, but we're not going to run him. Okay, cool.
I'm not going to do the thing that everyone expects me to do and run the running back that I paid $8 million for this year.
Yeah,
that was a good touchdown drive. Running off the weak side there, going to Stanley, drawing that late hit out of bounds. You give him the direct snap, going into the end zone. Great drive. Let's see more of that.
And I'll give some credit, even though he was definitely got a big assist from the rest. I'll give some credit to Gardner Minshew. I mean, it's cliche at this point. It's so played out. The guy's tough as fucking nails. He was getting his shit kicked in by the Ravens front.
Definition of a gunslinger.
He was getting nailed over and over again. Matabike slings him to the ground. Ajabo jumps on him. Oweh sacking him left and right. Kyle Van Noy's hitting him. Travis Jones hit him a couple times. And he put the ball where Devontae Adams could make a play on it quite a few times. He found Brock Bowers quite a few times. Put some tight balls on for Jacoby Myers late. Jacoby Myers has that, I believe, in-breaker. It might have been cover 1 against Marlon Humphrey, who is getting absolutely shit on online. I don't really know why. I thought he had a pretty good game. He set the edge really well. He had a pick. The touchdown was like, okay, it was on the 1 yard line. Okay, they scored from the 1. I don't care. I don't know. I think he's getting a little bit too much hate. Oh, everybody calling for Bill Belichick in the comments also. Peepaw is sipping lemonade. He's fucking 100 years old.
I can't see the comments for some reason, but that's awesome. There's
been no joke a dozen of them. Peepaw has his plaid button up on and his pants are tucked into his khakis. He's drinking Arnold Palmer's, secretly smoking cigarettes when no one's
doing like 6 media gigs too.
Well, you're saying this, but I think he still wants to coach. Like, it's coming out that he wants to coach, but it's like he's putting feelers out there. It's like, dude, it's over. Like, just go work for Underdog. You're good now. You're the GOAT. Like, it's over now.
And to Brian's point, we did this whole thing literally last year when the Ravens lost to Gardner Minshew. We did this entire thing. It was like a month later in the season. They lost to Gardner Minshew. They blew a lead that they had in the fourth quarter. They got victimized by the refs, all of that stuff. So are we overreacting? Probably. But I genuinely will say for the 100th time, and I'm not going to say it one more time the rest of the week, bench Daniel Falele. That is the one true thing that is wild to me.
And in fairness to overreacting, I think for the most part, during a lot of these in previous years, we've stayed pretty level-headed, and you just can't keep staying level-headed after these. I mean,
that's where I'm at.
It's just very hard to continue to give this they figure it out every year, so I'm sure it'll be better in 2 months or something like that. I think it's just
And we talked about
you have to have one a year where you just send the negativity.
And we talked about this offensive line.
I could do some Stephen A. Smith really, really quickly.
Please.
the Oakland Raiders were tougher than the Baltimore Ravens. They were tougher. They were tougher in the fourth. I mean, if you want to do like the hot takeism, they're just straight tougher. Minshew was tougher. Antonio Pierce was tougher than Harbs. Devonta Adams was tougher. Brock Bowers was running through people. Even Zamir White dragged some tacklers when they were getting into field.
They were mentally tougher. These guys have nothing to lose. They're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Minshew might not be starting next year. He's just like, fuck it, man. I'm going to go out there and sling it. And I think, that makes it a little bit easier to be in a game like this because it's like the weight of expectations is not crushing you in the way that it is with the Ravens. It's, expectations have just been following them around forever. And I think last year they did a nice job responding to it for the most part, save for the AFC Championship game. But this kind of felt like the same deal where it just feels like there was a dark cloud just hanging over their head at points in this game. And it really cost them. It's tough.
One thing that I understand now, I understand why a lot of Ravens fans have wanted Harbaugh gone, and it's because they're bored. I think that's why. I think they're just very bored by the Lamar Jackson narratives, and I think they want to see something new and exciting. And
a new head coach would take that heat off of Lamar because then that becomes the story.
Yeah, I think that's why. And I kind of this was the first time today that I felt just bored by John Harbaugh. And I'm probably accentuating way too much of why they lost this game. Is it all on him? No. Did he do some stuff that is going to come under scrutiny with timeouts and stuff like that? I think they're just bored by him. I think it was boring. I think his responses have grown boring. I think that watching these similar types of games play out, there's the really good game. Like they'll have a game against the 49ers on Christmas. They'll have that every year where they blow out a good team. They fucking stomp on their neck. And then there's these games, and then there's some close wins, and they never really lose by a lot. And that's the one thing I think that is severely underrated and is a testament to why he's not as bad of a coach as people say, because they never get blown out ever, 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 ever. Maybe they do against the Cowboys, who knows? But never. They don't lose by 15, 20 points. That just doesn't happen ever. The worst loss, I think, Brian, you mentioned the Miami Thursday night game, right? That's like the worst loss. The Titans game in the playoffs, I guess, is the other one. And that was 6 years ago now, five years ago now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking
never
at
getting blown out.
Like team stats, and we're plus 250 on net yards in that ballpark, right in that ballpark, and we're 0-2. I'd be curious to see what the highest level of net yards. I don't think we're at the top of the list. We're probably anywhere close, but like how many teams are in that ballpark at 0-2 ever?
Right. And it makes you wonder,
hard to do. And the other thing too is usually the calculus to be an 0-2 team with all that is you're just like buried on turnover differential. We're even on that. Both games is one turnover side. So like when you think of sloppy football, you usually think of turnovers. We're not playing sloppy football, but we are in all the small things. So I don't know.
Again, I think that's a result of trying to do too much offensively at once. How many sacks did they take? Crosby had 2, and that was it. You mentioned the turnovers, Brian. Usually sloppy football is sacks, turnovers, and the one thing we will say is penalties. Penalties, they had
penalties, yeah.
A heaping, walloping, steaming pile of shit in their mouth of, but some of those were very questionable.
I didn't like there was the PI on, I believe it was Humphrey, where he didn't really turn to find the football, but did he really interfere? I thought that's one where it's like, hey, it kind of looks like a foul, but like it's not, but I could see why referee called it. I was like, okay, fair, sure, whatever. Same goes for Lamar going out of bounds that wasn't called. I also don't think that's a foul, but every other quarterback, it feels like, gets that call, and that's frustrating in itself. So you have two things that, like, all things considered, you probably should be getting one of those calls to go your way, and neither are. So you just start to accumulate all these things that seem to be happening to us. It's frustrating. But it's hard to really, like, just hammer the refs, although they deserve to kind of be hammered if you really kind of look at the ledger. When we do all these other things that are the dozen things I mentioned earlier, that you do any of those one thing, we're talking about a whole different thing. We're just frustrated that we played a sloppy game, but thank God we won, or we're 1-1, and we're just moving on.
Hopefully, hopefully they're better later.
It's not emotional about the officiating at this point.
Yeah, it's every game.
If you lose to the Raiders and Gardner Minshew at home in your home opener with time to prepare,
like as you
get
said,
what you
like
deserve.
I'm like in these games, I'm just getting off Twitter because people are just losing their minds about the officiating. I'm just like, you know what? Like, win the game anyway. Like,
yeah.
people-
That's what I'm talking about. 3:54 left. You get the football. All that shit aside is noise. You have the opportunity to go do it, and we never do it. Almost never do it in that spot. It's a trend. It's a pattern. It's
front runners. I mean, they did it against the Rams last year, kind of in the overtime. They get the punt return. Obviously, a great touchdown on 3rd and long there, but it's like, how many games did they really have to like sweat out and go and grind out? Like, it's just, I really can't think of that many. You got to build a lead and you got to sit on it. Yeah. And they just could not do that today.
Where do we try to find some silver linings here? I've got like 2 things that I can throw out there, but I'll let you guys go first.
Silver linings is that the benefit of doing all the hard shit before you're good at it is that you'll be way better at it later. The silver lining is that they, like you said, didn't turn the ball over or take that many sacks. They just had some weird shit happen. Silver lining is that expectations are like done with, kind of. Like it's like no one's looking at the Ravens this upcoming week. They're going to talk about Baker Mayfield beating the Lions. They're going to talk about
there is going to be Nick Wright and the boys talking about how the Ravens are not getting their money's worth out of Lamar Jackson.
I cannot wait to see where Lamar is on the Mahomes pyramid.
On the Mahomes mountain. Yeah.
I cannot wait.
I'm very proud to say I have no idea what the Mahomes mountain
is. I love the Mahomes mountain.
I really like Nick Wright, to be honest. I think he's very entertaining. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think he's a genuinely good dude. So I enjoy like that stuff, but like there are other ones that it's just, they're going to come out and say all that. But you're right. Like the expectations are kind of like they're 0-2. Everyone's going to forget about them until they make them remember them again. And guess what? It's going to be difficult to do that, but hey, it's right in front of us. We just got to go get it, Taylor.
Couple of comments. We just got to go get it. Hey, man, that guy leads us by 3 in the division, so we can get to that in another podcast. Yeah. I was gonna about 3 commenters took the point. The defensive line continues to look good, and they don't allow any yards on the ground. I mean,
the defense is a silver lining for sure.
The defense. And for 2 weeks, I know this Raiders offense is limited. Zach Gore doesn't look out of his depth at all. So yeah, that's good. I mean, that's nice.
They're healthy.
Yeah,
the Cowboys just got fucking destroyed by the Saints.
They're also a half of a foot and a couple other things today from being 2-0. So
loser leaves town game incoming.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike McCarthy.
I mean, we're in the
ballpark. The Cowboys discussion this week is going to totally throw the Ravens to the back burner.
Harbaugh and McCarthy. Yeah, that's what I was saying
they
before.
Are going to do all 2 hours of first take on the Cowboys tomorrow. Yeah, they will talk about nothing else tomorrow.
Yeah. Then the 2 gunslingers, John Harbaugh,
and that's a silver lining as well.
Brian, you had your silver linings. You let us off here.
No, that's good. You were kind of in the ballpark on my first one, which is like, hey, you're going to be hardened by this. You're going to be better later because you're going through the hard shit. Like, we're going to be in a cooker here the next 3 weeks, really, playing playoff games very early in a way. Like, the pressure is going to be turned up. We're going to find out quickly who this team is. And hopefully, in theory, if you're a big narrative guy, that's going to make us better in the long run.
As a wise man once said, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and good things don't die.
Sure. The other one is like, who are we really chasing in the AFC North?
That's enough. Like the Bengals. The Bengals got absolutely, and I guess it deserved to happen. That was clearly a PI, but the Bengals have to feel like they just had a stake driven through their heart once again by the Kansas City Chiefs in a big spot. They're 0-2. Steelers are 2-0. Okay, good for Justin.
Can I say the Steelers did so much Steeler stuff today? I mean, and
2 weeks in a row.
And Justin Fields might be perfect for him.
Yeah.
And if they start Russell Wilson when he comes back, like, I would lose my mind. I mean, they will immediately lose by 40 if he comes and plays for them. But Justin Fields just does enough weird stuff to make them a little more dynamic, even though he's sort of just average, obviously.
I'm so annoyed with the Bengals schedule right now. I'm looking at it. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just such a Steeler team. It's just really, and just I don't know. I was just watching them, and I'm watching Justin Fields, and I'm like, God, why did Russell Wilson get hurt?
Yeah.
Why could he not have just played them into 0-2?
Well, he'll make some noise behind the scenes and hopefully draw some discord amongst the just sow some dissonance among that locker room because he's not getting the TV time that he needs or something like that.
The Steelers also have played two very bad teams, I think.
They
and
have.
They're reaping right now, and the sowing is going to be amazing.
Me reaping, haha,
Yeah.
this fucking rules. Me sowing, this fucking sucks. What the fuck?
It's coming.
Brownies 1-1. They get the W in Jacksonville. I think, did Jameis get a little action today? Is that what I saw?
I have no idea. Something I did see, though, was a stat that the New York Giants are the first football team in NFL history to score 3 touchdowns, allow no touchdowns, and lose a game.
I didn't watch a second of that.
I don't even know that game happened. I don't think that game actually happened.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of that either. And while I watched Steelers offensive drives, I didn't see one Bo Nix pass, so I still have no idea.
Dude, I watched the end of that game. It is rough. Sean Payton having hubris about developing a young quarterback. Who would have ever thought that was going to happen? What a clown that guy is, Sean Payton. Get out of here.
Well, since we're now kind of on some general NFL stuff, is it over for Bryce Young already?
No, it's so hard for a young quarterback to go into 2 different systems in 2 years, and you're also in a dysfunctional organization. But the fact that it's the Panthers
is not talented at all around him. They have no talent.
Reminds me very much of one Sam Darnold who's shining right now.
It's just going to be really hard to come back from soon. Yeah, you're right. He might have a second act somewhere else, but this Carolina thing, I don't know if it's going to work.
If I was him, I would just
Steelers
almost be trying to
Band-Aid in a
force a
couple
trade
years.
right now. Just get out of there. He just has. They're so. And that was more of the point I was leaning into because he's clearly not. That is the worst organization in the league.
Yeah, maybe in sports, North American sports right now.
Yeah, the Giants, I did also see this too. The Giants threw Malik Neighbors passes on 70% of the snaps he was on the field.
Hey, it's hey, just feed the guy.
Brian Dable, they asked him.
We have to get him the ball. To get him involved, we have to throw him the ball. And that's
they did. And they certainly did. Those are the little things.
They won the narrative. They lost the game, but they won the narrative.
And that's in New York. Sometimes that's what you have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God, Taylor, you just get it. So those are the little things that keep me going. That Dayball comment, and then Malik Neighbors having 18 targets.
Such a good quote.
That's what I'm about. That's the kind of shit I'm about.
Antonio Pierce did a no-sell of a sideline question today. It was like, "Are you satisfied with how your team has rushed the pass so far?" And he's like, "I won't be satisfied till the end of the game." Such a good football guy.
I like him.
I do like him too. I like him too.
Yeah.
I don't really have any other broadcast takes.
I was going to say, Tiki was he was a little more.
He's fine. Andrew Catalan's really good.
Catalan's good. He gets relegated to the B and C squad, but I think he's got the talent. He's got the chops. But yeah, Tiki was kind of a little more.
He might take over for Nance on golf when Jimmy calls it quits in about 10 years on golf because he'll do golf for a long time.
So, yeah, Catalan's been getting in the mix in there for a while. So yeah, he's a true talent. They're bringing him up.
Also, one more guy I want to shout out on the Ravens. Travis Jones just makes a couple of plays every game.
Yeah,
he looks fantastic.
He's good.
He is. I think Broderick Washington's played well. I think that whole front has been awesome. Really, really awesome. Tough. I think Malik Harrison got shook again. I can't really remember, but I think
Brandon Stevens. I will say
Malik Harrison did get shook. He did.
I'll say this about Brandon Stevens. He was in a tough spot with the draw on Adams today, but he made a couple. Adams made just a couple literally can't do anything else type of plays on him, and then that 4th down, he stayed step for step with him and made a nice break up there. So I think
Brian, did you join me in full crying when they showed Jacoby Jones' mom and son?
Oh my God.
I was fighting my lips quivering. I was like,
it's tough.
I had sunglasses on. I was like, don't let your lips.
I put my sunglasses on in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Corey Smith tweeting that little Jacoby loved Zay Flowers tribute celebration, which was very, very cool to see. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Also, Chain Gang. Hope that guy's okay. That was
it seemed like that was weird. Yeah, they didn't show the replay or anything. They just showed all the Ravens just kind of taking a knee. You didn't really know what was going on right away, but it sounds.
I saw the guy collapse. It was on the sideline on the side of the stadium that I sit on, and I saw the guy down. So I didn't see him fall, but when he went down, obviously all the stuff going on, people kind of scattering, and Harbaugh is right on top of him, just waving people away and make space, and they were doing CPR within 10 seconds of him being on the ground. It was scary as shit.
It's really scary. Yeah, it sounds like he got up.
They showed, and obviously it's a scary situation when they showed the Ravens because Jake, obviously you're not watching TV. They showed the Ravens like taking a knee, like looking very concerned at their own sideline. And I was like, oh my God. Like
you think it's a player. Yeah. You're like, oh, what happened?
Shout out to Mr. Brooks, who sits behind me, an older gentleman who we were doing the whole thing. We're like, okay, I see Stanley, I see Andrews, like doing the little process of elimination.
He's probably listening to the radio on his headphones. He's like, oh,
and he said he has a very old timey way of speaking, and he said, I am very happy that it was not one of our players, but at the same time, I hope that man recovers well.
Is he from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
He talks like that. He talks like that. It's my buddy. My buddy Jerron.
Is he one of the 75-year-old green jackets at Augusta?
Yeah, really. Oh, please.
He was telling me how he went to Kansas City to see the game, and I saw
Johnson
the fountain.
right there.
He said the fountains. The quote of the day from Mr. Brooks was, "The fountains were spectacular." So shout out to Mr. Brooks. That was weird.
Yeah. Obviously hope he's okay. And I wasn't going to make this kind of a joke at the time whatsoever, but I think Sandusky is might be a little bit of redemption there on that. With this whole thing about
Jerry
referees.
I assume you're talking about Jerry with a G.
Yeah, Jerry with a G. His whole thing in the preseason about like referees and chain gang guys.
Oh yeah, he had to tweet an apology about the disrespect. The funny thing about that was I didn't even know
that went over my head.
I just saw the apology and it just made me. It just tickled me to no end.
You never saw the clip. It was about referees just not being in the same shape as football players. Like
yeah, that's wow. Okay, yeah, no, I'm glad he tweeted the apology then because
one of those older gentlemen painting in a 90-degree. It was so hot. I was sitting and it was so hot at the game. That is like a physical personification of the fact that it is a very archaic system to which the NFL still operates.
Yeah. I like the human element though. It's like umps. I just love the humans that just boil my blood and make me angry to no end because of
how would Vegas sportsbooks make their money if they
doing
to being accurate instead of subjective,
which is amazing. 2 weeks after watching the U.S. Open, where they're a computer is calling every single shot in tennis to like the 99.9th percentile of accuracy, and in the NFL, billions and billions of dollar league, we have guys just like sort of just deciding where first in tennis.
I'm just constantly fascinated by the idea of like the two side judges that they each put their foot out on where they think it went, and they kind of like look across the field at where the other one is, and if it's depending on what side of the field the play's on,
crazy.
It's like I saw a play where the one side judge was like 1.5 yards off from the other one, and he's like, how do I just kind of sneak over and put my foot where this other guy's is without making it look like I'm just like fucking around or doing something shady? Like you
get players like moving the ball too.
So arbitrary. It's
that clip of Romo like walked up and like moving the ball with his foot, and everyone like pushes Romo back, like get out of here, Romo. Like God.
Maybe they just sit there in the NFL competition committee and they're like, you know what, we could easily fix this, but this is just drama. Like this is what makes us the best, and no one watches tennis. And great that they get every call right on court 13 in Flushing Meadows, but you know what? People can just move the ball around, and then we'll bring out the chains and we'll dramatically.
Tony Romo can just slide the ball a little bit.
Yeah. And Chad Greenway just like decapitates him. Like maybe
they have it right. Maybe they have it right.
Yeah. That's what makes it the best. If you want to just like rationalize and just digitalize everything, we could do that, but that would be very boring to me.
Today was one of those days where, as a fan of the team that I like watching them get shafted, I was like, why do I like this sport so much? And then I literally came home and was like, oh, the Steelers and Broncos are in a 1-score game. Let me tune in.
And then you turned into Morgan Freeman at the end of Shawshank.
Bo Nix might throw an interception again.
I hope I make it across the border.
Also, just generally speaking,
fluid as in my dreams.
Very generally speaking, the first half was an awful half of football. It was just extremely boring. And
that was the first
same shit as the Texans last year in the home opener last year.
Was that the first? I think I saw something that was the first half that they didn't score a touchdown in like a
like
long
2 years.
time. Yeah, not good. Not good.
That first half for the Ravens and Maryland's first half yesterday were the two worst combined halves I've watched in football of my two teams in a long time. They were two horrible first halves.
Well, one of your teams pulled it out, and
that is true.
I don't really, in any real sense, I root for that team in passing, but let me tell you,
pulled it out.
Yeah, good for Billy football.
Ty Felton.
Yeah.
Stud.
He's a guy.
Crowd has been dead for years, Joe. I had to chug milk because of it.
Oh,
They were
God.
waiting. You know what was going on? They were waiting for hot dogs for a fucking quarter in the second half, and then people are in the X-Wing lounge drinking Bud Lights and closing real estate deals. That's what was going on.
Here's the thing. This is
Price out the working man.
Honestly, we get the ball at 27 seconds, and it was pretty embarrassing. Like what was left in the stadium, and they were victory lapping. The Raiders fans were already.
I will say, people left in the stadium. I'm watching people sit for like 2 hours outside of my house here trying to get out of here. So I would understand people trying to beat the traffic. I do think that the stadium atmosphere, and Spenny spoke to this and put his body on the line for it, has not been good for a few years. So I don't know why. That's not really a new take. And I do think just in general across sports, stadiums are just going to change in a way where crowds are going to become less and less impactful because, Jake, I know you were semi-joking, but, they're going to put –
I'm joking
about
about
premium experiences and not as much about packing as many people in the stadium because ultimately you make more from premium experience than putting an extra $10K of regular people.
They can put the price at whatever they want. People are going to pay it. So, like, they'll put it up here and then, Danny from Colombia with his 2 kids making $200K a year at a consulting job.
The X-Wing, sponsored by the Saudi private spot, Saudi private fund Bud Light.
Yeah. And to that point, though, when it mattered, and I know, you hope it's great every week. When it mattered in the AFC Championship game last year, the place was fucking electric. So,
Yeah.
At least it's not totally dead.
I'm running on E here, but I do my last modicum of gas. I'm leaving Joe DeMartin's comment up here. I'm asking the 3 of you, my podcast co-hosts, I'll throw Eric in there, who's worthless to me in this conversation, but he can be included.
And in many other contexts.
I'm asking every person that ever has listened to this, enjoyed any single sentence that any of us have muttered on this podcast, please tell every single Ravens fan that you hate when they play Metallica and wave the Maryland flags, and that every time they do that, they lose. Tell everyone until the people who physically facilitate the stadium experience hear so much negative feedback about Metallica that they stop doing it. I can't do it anymore. Please, as a personal favor, tell every single person that gives a flying fuck 1% about the Ravens that Metallica should not be played anymore. The Maryland flags thing sucks, and every time they play it, they basically lose. Like, it is 50-50. Every time I hear I go, oh, here we go. Here's fucking Michael Pittman mossing someone 55 yards downfield to win the game. Oh, here's Najee Harris in the back of the end zone. Oh, here's Gardner Minshew round 2, the sequel, ready to go. So please, I hate it. It has to be. You
do know that we have a kind of an in there. Like, we do know one of those decision makers a little bit. I'll get you his comment.
The stadium guy follows me on Twitter, and I've tweeted it so many times. I tweeted it so many times.
It's not even Metallica. It's that genre as a whole is just so ingrained in the game day music experience. And I'm not saying it needs to deviate strongly from that or it needs to be one thing or another, but we got to make a change. Something's got to change. I love Metallica. I'm a big Metallica guy. Not a huge self-titled album guy per se. There's some bangers on there, but
Lime, Rage Against the
little
Machine.
exhausted, but
these are great.
It's exhausting just hearing the same shit, and it's trauma. It's the pug with the helicopters flying over its head. It's
1,000-yard stare. Yeah.
It's an interesting catch-22 because as I never made any of these decisions, but as someone that was in some of these discussions, you have certain things in your in-stadium experience for so long. You have trained your audience to react a certain way when those things happen. And so taking that habit away, you're concerned that people will then not react. If
they only started doing it a couple years ago, and that's when all this shit started. So it's
I get what you're saying.
Making the thing. Gretchen Wiener's trying to make fetch happen. We got to stop.
I get what you're saying. That would be a thing I would throw out there that I'm sure they're like, okay, we need to stay consistent but ultimately they could definitely upgrade the music selection in the game day experience. I do think they also are probably playing the game in their heads, which we did this at Maryland, of you're trying to cater to all these different crowds, right? You're trying to bring in music that caters to the 65-year-old season ticket holder who's been there for 20 years and the kid that came from the tailgate who's 25, which sometimes is hard. So that would be my one. That would be my one neutral game day experience take.
New
Actually,
But then you also see Penn State do things with like Mo Bamba, and the place like absolutely pops off. So it's
what was the song off Watch the Throne that they played like 15 years ago? Otis. Yeah, they played Otis was fucking awesome, man. And everyone liked Otis. It didn't matter who you were, what background. Just go back to Otis.
And that was just rap. Yeah.
Otis still goes.
If I'm given the keys against the Bills on Sunday night, if I'm given the keys, I get a couple weeks to play in this. I'm getting, it's time to play the game. It's time to play the game. And then it's going to go, hey. And then just get it jumping. Let's get some EDM in there. Let's get some rap. Let's get
Scott
Lady Gaga, Michael Jackson.
You started
out with a pro wrestling. You started that out with a pro wrestling. Get some more pro wrestling themes in there. They're doing that in hockey. Every time you watch the hockey playoffs, they are just gunning like Becky Lynch's theme and Seth Rollins. Like that stuff is made.
Seth Rollins' theme. Yes.
Spencer, you were there till the very end, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I was watching Gardner Minshew get interviewed on the field.
Is the PA announcer trying to sell us on the Bills game on the way out?
I was like, fuck you.
Oh my God.
Thank you for coming in. Please remember to purchase your $400 tickets to the X-Wing Lounge, brought to you by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. Enjoy your time against the Buffalo Bills.
I think the Black Wing is presented by Sagamore. I saw that in the game day preview the other day. When
they got Atlas in the house now too, so they're just ticking all the boxes.
John Harbaugh's titties are gonna Sagamore if he doesn't stop blowing his timeouts.
She got a great ass.
All right, I have to go sit down and watch Sunday Night Football.
Game day music, maybe we're end us, Jake.
Yeah. I think once we get to that point, we're probably all taked out here. But I came into this thinking I would have absolutely like nothing to say, just pure, just desolation, desperation. It's the state of unbelief that I am in right now. But we found a way. Running on an hour and 20 here. Thank you guys for joining me, for venting. The Ravens have dug themselves into a hole that is going to be hard to pull their way out of this one. See how old Johnny Harbaugh wriggles his way out of this one next week on Baltimore Ravens at Dallas Cowboys. Thank you for everyone hanging in here with us as we get to.
Oh boy.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, what are we doing here?
For our YouTube crowd.
NFC Lamar coming up though.
Yeah. Yeah, 19-1.
God, Lamar versus Dak, 0-2.
Yeah.
Oh God. 0-2 versus 1-1.
Nick Wright might come to the game, and Skip. They might be all in Dallas next, or in Arlington next.
Skip had a good rant today. My brother was kind of playing that as we were watching the game here. He's still firing heaters after the baller last week. The greatest baller that I have ever seen at the position, Lamar Jackson. That was not true today though. So gonna need to get back to that next week against the Cowboys. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. This was a painful episode for us all to record, but we got some of the pain out. I hope we eased some of your pain for everyone in the comments. We'll have plenty more to say on the season. Got a jumbo set coming up. We got a preview later in the week as the Ravens travel to Arlington, Dallas, whatever it is. Still pumping out plenty of Orioles content. At least they're not letting us down, right?
Yeah, they're really on the up and up.
Yeah.
Down 3 games. Everyone makes fun of Booney. He's got a 3-game lead in the division.
Yeah, I hope you're happy. This is the culminating moment of your Booney fandom. I hope you're happy. It's really, great stuff.
Wait a minute.
Oh boy.
Oh no. Don't do this. Don't do this.
That's tough. I thought you were going to get the hat, and I know you are like Ben Affleck. You'll never wear a Yankees hat, so you'll
no.
Steady just dips out as Taylor shows off his Booney jersey, his
The funny part of that is that sweatshirt is purchased to literally troll one person in my life, and that was like a $60 purchase just for one troll job that I didn't even get to make happen because the Yankees lost before we could do it at the playoff game that day. So I don't know. When are we doing the Orioles pod tomorrow? I need to jump on an Orioles pod because I have some takes about the Orioles.
So Eric's going to be at the Albert Suarez event at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Everybody should get out there if they're if they're not already going. But we'll put something together. I'll be sure you're in there. You'll be wearing your Booney jersey. I'm sure Spenny will have some stuff to say after yet another just dumpster fire of a series out there in Detroit.
Horrible.
Losing 1 and 2, but we'll be going live talking about the Orioles tomorrow night as they have the night off. But
Orioles and Ravens. Sorry, Jake. Orioles, because I know you're trying to finish it. Orioles and Ravens 4-13 since the Ravens season began.
And we were talking, Eric and I were talking about the last year going into that weekend where the Orioles clinched the playoffs, the Ravens going up to play Pittsburgh. You know, oh, this could be the great, and Maryland, I think they were playing Ohio State, greatest sports weekend in Maryland history. And it was just a clean sweep across the board, just 0 for 4, 0 for 3 or whatever. So yeah, great stuff there. But yeah, I will wrap us up here on that. Thank you, like I said, everyone for hanging with us. Thank for everyone listening after the fact. Feel free to share us with all your friends via word of mouth, via social media. Like the video, comment on the video, get the algorithm pumping. Interesting times ahead for the Baltimore Ravens, who, like I said, have their work cut out for them here. If you liked what you saw and you want to find more of us, you can find us on social media at Exit 52 Podcast on X and Instagram. I am at Jake Louque. That's Louque. Taylor at Taylor Smyth 10. Brian at Barstool Banks. At Spenny, the late great Spenny Schultz at Ravens 4 Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle. And Eric at EDITTI 22. Thanks again, guys. Tough one this week. Hopefully they'll bounce back, because hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and a good thing never dies. We'll see you soon.